everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Down to Watch. I am Kahmeela.
I am Dan.
This is the podcast that asks the question, are you down to watch? So generally, we just talk about movies, music, TV, and just pop culture nonsense. But today, because it is the month of October, and because it's been quite some time since we've recorded a podcast, we're going to go dig way back to an old school horror classic. Classic?
Classic.
All right. We're going to go into an old school horror classic, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Classic.
All right, so let's just get down to the plot summary. You know, if you're new to all this, if you're new to Nightmare on Elm Street, if you've never seen Nightmare on Elm Street before,
welcome to America.
There are going to be spoilers. This movie came out in 1984. This is a movie about the monstrous spirit of a slain janitor seeks revenge by invading the dreams of teenagers whose parents were responsible for his untimely death. Directed by Wes Craven, written by Wes Craven. Now, our personal histories with the movie, you know, I joke and I say about, you know, this movie is old as dirt, and if you haven't seen it before, blah, 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 but I don't think I saw this movie until I was like well on an adult.
Oh, really?
And after watching it, like it came out, I was like 8 years old. So there was no way I was going to have seen it. But I was very familiar of Freddy Krueger and all that jazz. And I know my cousins, Deacon and Jimmy, they saw it and they would not stop talking about it for months and years.
Right. There's a couple of great scenes. Yeah.
So like there's a lot of stuff that I know the references and the jokes and everything only because of secondhand of what they were telling me.
Right.
And then like I said, I don't think I saw it till I was probably in my 20s fully. And even watching it again last night, I didn't remember like the ending. So maybe I had fallen asleep before it was too much. So and you?
The ending, quite honestly, is somewhat forgettable, except for certain elements. But it doesn't really end, right? So that's kind of what I mean by that. But anyway, I was 12 when this came out.
Wow. So were you allowed to see it? Did you see it?
I don't know allowed is the right word, but I saw it either at Oak Park Mall or Ranch Mart Mall with my buddies.
So you saw it in the theater?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. And it gave me nightmares. I don't know.
Seriously?
That was a bad idea. I should have had some adult supervision.
Oh, my God.
Like, most of the horrible nightmares that I've had in my life are from this movie.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Part because I was 12 when I saw it. Two, it uses a lot of good children's literature tropes.
Children's literature tropes, like the boogeyman?
Yeah, like the boogeyman, but also about being lost, or like the basement being scary, or your bed possibly having something underneath it that could get you.
Yeah.
And so it uses that a lot throughout this dream monster movie. It also uses a lot of monster movie tropes, but it does some innovative things too, like the dream monster.
Right.
Super innovative.
I think that's probably the biggest thing. That's the scariest thing about the movie to me.
That's what makes it classic.
Like as I was watching it last night, I was like, this is more gross than it is scary. But once it was over, I kept hearing the children's rhyme.
Creepy children's song. Check. Like there's a couple of big checks on my notes you'll see here. Like,
right.
Creepy song. Check.
Exactly.
Creepy run. Check.
Creepy children. So yeah. So that nursery rhyme that really sticks with you.
Right.
And also just when you just think about like the general idea of your nightmare being able to get you once you're awake.
Right.
Like that's fucking terrifying.
Yeah, and a lot of that goes to the editing, which was there was a lot of cut twos throughout. We'll get into the nitty gritty, but just this is the 10,000 foot view is like that cut to between reality and dream.
Right.
Right. So they cut to something that was real at the neighbor's house, and they cut to a dream that was going on at the other neighbor's house. And so the audience was always kind of confused about that line, as well as the kids were, the characters or the victims.
Yeah. Another thing that like is too so like when there's a scene where Nancy is running up the stairs and she's like sinking into them, and there's also like, you know, Freddy being in the walls or whatnot. I think they did a great job of like utilizing like what's actually like what people have actually experienced in nightmares, you know, not being able to run.
Right.
And so yeah, all right, so before we get too deep in, the cast, We've got John Saxon as Lieutenant Thompson, who plays Nancy Thompson's father, played by Heather Langenkamp. Ronnie Blakely as Marge Thompson. Amanda Wise as Tina Gray. And introducing a young Johnny Depp as Nancy's boyfriend, Glenn Lance. And a bunch of other people. But most importantly, we've got Robert Englund, who has made an entire career off of being Freddy Krueger.
Because they made a lot of Freddy Krueger
They
movies.
made a lot of these movies.
Should we talk about that before we
Let's
jump?
talk about all the different.
Yeah, just
Well, first and foremost, there were 8 of them, and 1 remake.
okay. All right. Yeah.
So
Yeah, so I mean, when they broke this franchise, Robert Shea being like the main producer on all of them, he's like, Dream Monster. Yeah, we're gonna do a lot of them. Right?
we can go far on this one. My kids are going. I'm putting my grandkids through college.
Oh
on
yeah,
this one.
right. Because there was just like one after the other. It was like in 1984 they did Nightmare on Elm Street. Then 1985 was A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. And then in 1987, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. And then, you got kind of caught up in doing Critters for a while. And then, boom, TV Land from 1988 to about 1990 or so. They did a bunch of Freddy Krueger different TV experiments, I should say. Like, more than one.
Right.
But then, in 1988, which was just a year after...
Right.
They launched A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. And then in 1989, A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. And then, in 1991, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare.
But wait, there's more.
In 1994, New Nightmare.
Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So
Right.
Wes Craven was like, you know what? I am coming back into the game. Let's just put all this bullshit to rest. Like, y'all been playing around with my creation for quite some time.
Right. Time for me to put my hands back on it.
Exactly.
And then in 2003, there's that kind of like walk of shame everybody has to do. Freddy versus Jason, Alien versus Predator.
Yeah.
Jump in the shark. But that's okay. People had
I
a
think
good
that
time.
one was even in space.
Freddy versus Jason?
I think so.
I don't know. I've never seen it.
I
but
never saw it.
I did see a lot of people wearing merchandise around this franchise. So kudos to them. They made money. Somebody's
Right.
grandkids got another college fund.
Right.
I hope. Right. And then, he went off and did Lord of the Rings for a while, which I guess some people saw.
A little independent film that a few
Franchise,
may be
right.
aware of.
And then they did the remake in 2010, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Now, and out of all of those, okay, so after this one was over last night, you had fallen asleep, which obviously you had gotten over your being able to sleep after watching Freddy.
Right. I'm grown now.
And so I was like, all right, and I was like pretty much wide awake. I was like, let's keep this going a little bit. Let's see what number 2 was like. And I watched number 2, and it looks like it was done like immediately, like the year after.
Right.
There's like.
Starring the best boy from the last
exactly,
movie.
Exactly. It
And
was
the
like
Gripper.
they had stopped production and then they immediately went into it or something. But there's like a whole new story, a whole new family. Nancy's not in it. And it's like Freddy is getting this guy to kill for him. Long story short, I fell asleep before like the end, but yeah, so it was like pretty apparent.
In my defense, we did start late.
Yeah. But that one, and then the only other one that I know that I saw for sure was The New Nightmare, and I saw the remake.
Yeah.
And the remake, I was just kind of like, meh.
Well, I mean, the Freddy Krueger monster, let's just talk about him for a second. He's a great monster. He's got his own kind of costume that isn't like an on-purpose costume. He's got like a gardener's hat.
An on-purpose costume.
And a, right. And the striped shirt, the red and brown or green?
Green and red.
Is it green and red? Yeah, okay. Green
Yeah.
and red striped shirt. And then the hand.
Right.
With the razors on him.
Yeah, the glove with the knife.
Yeah.
Knives for fingers.
Yeah, super scary.
Yeah. And he's all burnt up.
Yeah, and he's all burnt up. That was the gross part. And
Right.
people ripped his face off a lot. They played around with his face coming off,
Yeah.
putting other people's faces on. Like, I think that subliminally made its way into my nightmares, the whole face tearing off and thing. Like, I wrote a poem about it, right? Like, in my 20s.
John Woo made a whole movie about it.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that walking down the hallway, that very first scene where Tina's like walking down the hallway, like I've had that nightmare, except that the hallway was lined with people, just random strangers on either side of the hallway. And I'm walking down the hallway, and one will jump off the wall, and it'll be Freddy Krueger, because Freddy can morph, right? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they'd start chasing me, and I'd get some distance. Apparently, I was a much better runner than Freddy Krueger. But then another person off the wall would pop and turn into Freddy Krueger. So once I got my distance, he would cheat using his dream magic and jump into the body and possess one of the other people, right? This lasted. Finally, I got up some stairs. I get on the stairs. I bang on the door. Freddy's hot on my trail. Finally, somebody opens the door, lets me in. I close it, lock it. I'm safe. I turn around. It's a room full of people singing, my name is Jingle Jangle Hit.
That's a whole nother nightmare.
Whatever, together.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then I woke up. That is the worst nightmare I've ever had in my life.
Oh, my God.
And,
this is as a child?
Yes. Yeah, well, sometime after I saw Nightmare on Elm Street and 20. So, whatever that means.
Gotcha. I think when you mentioned, the whole, like, walking down the hall and there's people there, I think one of the things that this does do well is that, we have all of and I don't know if they came before this movie or if they just started to come after, but the horror movie tropes of, oh my God, someone is going to go investigate a strange noise outside, with no pants on and no shoes.
Idiots.
Oh yeah, she's going to go, follow a trail of blood down a hallway to the basement, but it's like, oh, it's
unarmed.
A dream.
Right.
So it's like, that's how they kind of get away with those tropes. Because it's like, you're in a dream. You're more than likely going to do that stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so I thought that was pretty neat.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
When the other interesting thing about this, being the first one, they start off the film before the credits start to roll is they're showing the alive Freddy making the glove with the knives for fingers without any real explanation.
Right.
Because we don't really get the explanation of who he is and what.
Right, and the other kind of bullshit
until
about this, like
all the way through the movie,
as the franchise moves forward, they kind of intimate that this has nothing to do with the first Nightmare on Elm Street. We're talking about franchise backstory, but they intimate that he was innocent.
Oh, really?
And that's why he's coming back, because he was because
he didn't murder 20 children.
Yeah, right. He got set up, and that it was somebody else making those knives.
What?
And that those,
Now this makes me want to go ahead and finish watching the rest of them now, and like do this deep dive, because, if that's the case, if that's an interesting little backstory that's in here, then that makes
he's a tormented soul.
This makes these franchises much more interesting, and it also gives me an explanation as to why he's doing how. That's my other thing.
It's like a curse,
yeah,
some kind of curse type thing about how he gets revenge on the children.
Right, the children of the parents.
And it's like either the parents sacrifice themselves or the children get it, right? And so, like, into the deep franchise, deep dive, the parents are in on this shit. They know he's coming for their kids. And
when does that happen? Like in the third one?
Maybe. I might be making this up and just tempting your tummy to watch the rest of them.
Where are you getting this information?
my memories from 80s cable.
Okay.
And maybe some insomniac, like I'm up, I couldn't sleep in the 90s or the early 2000s, and like Freddy Krueger 4 came on, and I'm like, okay,
there's something to be said for that. That's how I got into Rocky movies.
Right.
But so please don't hold us, please don't send us a bunch of hate email and whatnot if this is all wrong.
Well, feel free to correct us.
Yes, totally correct us. Like,
tempt our tummy.
Clearly, I don't know what's going on, and Dan is saying that it's questionable what he's recalling from.
I'm sure I have seen them all.
Okay,
and that's what my memory is telling me from that time. But again, that was a long time ago.
Right.
It's 2018 now.
You've seen like a million other horror movies since then, and Law and Order episodes that could also be more.
Oak Park Mall is still standing. Anyway, but yeah, the creepy song. They did a lot of really good editing techniques in the very beginning. They set it up with this guys making his signature trademark claw,
right,
and then it cuts into this kind of nightmare that the first person who's getting killed is in, which is also interesting because normally the first person that they show in a horror movie is the last one to die.
Yeah, the final girl.
Yeah, nope. They just in order of appearance and death. Here we go.
Yeah,
right?
and it's also, and I don't know if this woman was a big star at the time, because it's almost like taking a note from Hitchcock's Psycho.
Right.
Psycho. Hitchcock's Psycho.
Psycho on that.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm looking her up now. To
right.
See, if she had like she was a big deal in the 80s, and she did a lot of stuff. Looks like she was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Bunch of TV movies before this. Nope, she was not a big deal. So it wasn't exactly the same thing as, Janet Leigh and Psycho.
Yeah, I mean, none of these actors or actresses were, except for maybe Margaret Thompson, was a big deal.
But speaking
the ad actress's name, Ronee Blakley.
Ronnie Blakely, that's the mom.
Yeah, right. She might have been in some things.
Probably. And probably John Saxon, because he's like first credit on here.
Right.
And since we're talking about the actors, there are two that I'd like to point out here who, not lieutenant, maybe the sheriff that works with her father, he was playing the sheriff in Scream in Woodsbury.
Oh, interesting.
And that probably would have, I'm sure a lot of other people got that 30 years ago when that movie came out.
But I just got it this weekend.
Right, I just got it last night, like, oh my God. And then also the Nancy's English teacher is the woman from the Conjuring franchise, the old lady who speaks to the...
Oh, yeah, the medium.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't flat out say that this is L.A. any time, but I think they're trying to establish that it's L.A. or California because they talk about earthquakes.
Right.
There's shots with palm trees, so, I'm guessing it's L.A.
Right.
On purpose, not just because that's where they were shooting.
Right.
But when they cut to then immediately out of the nightmare into this creepy song, and they establish the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
Yes.
3, 4, better luck. And
we
it
all know the
goes
song,
to a
Dan.
nostalgic lens, right? And there's like a fuzzy little lens.
Well, there's like yellow fog, and like it's a dream, and then we pan over,
and it snaps into reality.
The fog goes away.
Yes.
And it's just a bunch of kids having a good time on their way to school.
Right. But they're typical teenagers. They're doing sleepovers undercover. It is and I guess it's also, I found something problematic in the relationship between, is it Tina and her little boyfriend, Roddy. Like, I don't even know if they were actually boyfriend or girlfriend, but she's like he's coming on to her really hard, like a lot of sexual harassment happening here. Right.
And then she is like saying no, and that she doesn't want to be left alone with him.
Right.
But yet she gives it up to, like, I don't know what the message was supposed to be there.
Right.
But again, it's just like goes into another horror movie trope, teenagers having sex.
Well,
unrealistically loud sex.
Yeah, right, exactly. Right. Poor Johnny Depp does his best. Give us the facial expressions of a boy feeling blue balls. This is just so horrible. It was strange too, and he's all like, "Hey, I've got an excuse for why I'm out." Johnny Depp's character, right? He's like, he's got a mixtape of sound effects, and he plays the airport one to say he's at his cousin's house by the airport. This is some stupid stuff a kid would do, too.
Right? And apparently, the sound effect was only 30 seconds.
It was almost Ferris Bueller. What could go wrong?
Right.
The other sounds on the sound effect tape.
Right.
Funny.
It was a good scene because then it like goes into, I don't know, a shootout or people, and he's like trying to explain to his mom that, oh my, there's people fighting outside. I don't know. Yes, I'll call the police. I'll call the police.
Right. Exactly. Like, I wonder how much of that was improv. How much of that was written. That was funny. Yeah, but there's just all kinds of other little creepy things that made it into my nightmares. Like, I really thought, first of all, Nancy, that actress at that age, made it into both my nightmares and other kinds of dreams. I just thought she was the cat's pajamas.
Heather Langenkamp.
Right, with her curly hair.
I've met her.
Yeah? There's a nice combination of Girl Next Door and International Assassin going on with her. Like she got tough. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. She got it turned very Home Alone towards the end when it was time for her to defeat him.
she had like little things like game face and sayings, battle cries.
Right.
It's great.
Yes. Okay. So one of the problems, I don't know. I guess it's what would you do if your kid is like, I'm having these nightmares that are real, that are really happening. Like, okay, you think your kid's going crazy. So yeah, there's not going to be a lot of believability in that story. She's slowly unraveling, poor Nancy, like through this whole thing. Can't fucking sleep. She's been awake for like 2 weeks straight, popping no-dos and drinking coffee.
Amphetamines are widely available in the 80s to teenagers.
She's like chugging pots of coffee
under her bed. That's the best, probably the campiest, most ridiculous thing was at one point in time, her mom's like, now go to sleep. She's like, okay, and her mom leaves the room.
Her mom clears out like 8 coffee cups and an empty coffee pot. And then Nancy pulls out
a fresh coffee pot that was already brewed under her bed.
A whole entire fucking coffee maker that was on under her bed.
Because she does not want to fall asleep again.
No, she doesn't. And so we've got this whole thing happening, and we're led to believe it's never really stated plainly that her parents are divorced, but we're assuming that's the case.
Yeah.
And her mom, she
has
just seems
bars on the outside of the upstairs windows.
Yeah, but she didn't do that until Nancy told her Freddy's name.
Okay.
And that's when that's when her mom started to get twitchy.
Gotcha.
And because then she knew the whole story.
That's right.
And then she wanted to tell her the story. And then mom's alcoholism starts to kick in.
Right. Triggered.
Right. So she's like hiding bottles of fucking vodka all throughout the house.
With the towels.
With the linen closet.
Right.
It's like, lady, you are grown. Like, seriously, if you want to have a drink, go ahead and have a drink. These are trying times.
Right. Maybe they're not the most delicate handling of substance abuse by the writing directors, but oh well, there it is. Because again, it wasn't really about that. It was written from the point of view of teenagers. It was for teenagers to have that point of view. It was the subject matter was about teenage life, and the heroes and victims were teenagers.
Right.
And the parents knew something was going on, but weren't being fully disclosing. So again, that's another like teenage kind of parent-child conflict.
I also don't recall. Well, maybe it gets into it in the other ones, but like, I was still looking for a time, like when they killed Freddy, when the parents killed him.
That comes up in the other movies.
Gotcha.
You'll have to see the rest of them.
Apparently,
I can't tell
they
you
only
if
give you
2 through 9, but
so they only give you just a taste, just enough to be like, just enough to ask a bunch of other questions that we will slowly answer throughout this franchise.
That's right, exactly, and that's why I say when they hatch this dream monster, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna do a bunch of these.
Just give them a little taste, just enough.
Oh yeah, they built a great universe.
So yeah, so those are questions that I had. Was that I assumed that I knew that these parents, this was about revenge. This was about Freddy's revenge on these parents, but I assumed that they killed him just because, like, they're just some shitty people. I didn't realize that he had done something.
Well, they thought he had done something.
Or that they even thought that he had done something.
Right.
I thought that it was just like their parents were teenagers at the time, and it was like some sort of wicked prank that had gone awry, and they accidentally killed him, or they like did some shitty stuff killed him.
They did like a lynching type kill.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. That's what I've learned now, but that's what I thought going into this, and it just brings up more questions.
I wouldn't be surprised if...
Like, how did all y'all get away with this homicide? this fucking murder.
Well, let me put this into the air, like an alternative reality. Mm-hmm. How different would this movie have been, or the narrative have been, if Freddy Krueger was a black man?
Oof. Would have been the skeleton key.
Candyman.
Right, or Candyman.
Except still in the suburbs. Still set in like kind of like the Beverly Hillish suburbs of... His Candyman was in the projects.
He was in Cabrini Green.
Right, exactly. right.
Like, would it be just much more? would it have even gotten made? Like, are you talking about if it was
Right.
made now or in
It'd
like
be
the
too
80s?
true. It'd be too much reality.
Exactly.
They'd be like, oh shit, some there's some homeowners associations that have done this shit.
Exactly. Would it have gotten past? People's like, we are telling someone's actual fucking story.
Right.
Right.
So we killed the gardener.
Right.
His name was Fernando.
Didn't you see how he put those roses in? That's not acceptable.
Right. Right. You know, that kind of crazy shit. So that was, you know, and Nancy's dad was a cop, a lieutenant
Right.
in the police force. So that might come into play into future franchise movies as to what he knew or didn't know.
Right.
Or what he learned or didn't learn after the fact.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. But Tina is the first to go. And let's just talk about her getting killed up a wall and across the ceiling.
Man,
These guys had an upside
the
down.
most ridiculous, long and drawn out, like, and Roddy, his reaction to it. Like, I mean, I kind of get it. Like, what do you do in that situation? Besides, what he did was yell her name and reach for her, but not really reach for her.
Right? Because you don't know where the blades are coming from, but you'd see that they're definitely working their magic on your girl.
Fucking blood everywhere, and she's being pulled up the wall and across the ceiling, and that. I mean, as far as a first kill in a movie goes, that's pretty. That's in a horror movie. That's pretty awesome.
It
I don't
was
want to
different.
use.
Oh, yeah. It was
like,
surprising. It was jaw dropping.
Yeah,
These
because
guys
like,
had an upside down room on set somewhere, and they loved it. They used it a couple times.
Because I'm thinking this was probably like maybe 20 minutes into the movie, and things are just a little creepy, but not full on blown.
You knew they were gonna die because they just had sex. You didn't know who.
I don't know if
die.
that had been established if those rules had been established in 1984.
Well, maybe this movie helped establish that rule.
I think that is correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they did show Freddy kind of like checking out the different rooms. He went into Nancy's room and did that elastic wall thing.
Yeah.
You know that thing?
That's super creepy.
Okay, that is why I put a collage over my bed. That's why the whole wall was covered with pictures cut out from magazines, old cars, beer commercials, other things. But that wasn't happening again because I had that nightmare somewhere between 12 and 16. But anyway, moving on. But there was nothing going on in Nancy's room, so Freddy then moved on.
Like, boring.
Yeah, right, moved on. It's like, all right, I'm going to kill this person up the wall. And then when the cops did come and be like, how come you all were hanging out at Tina's house? They weren't like, so Roddy could rail her. They were like, she was having nightmares.
She had nightmares.
Right.
But that was the reason.
That was the reason, but that's not why they stayed, because they were about to leave. When Nancy was like, okay, this isn't for us. Glenn, let's go outside and make out. Let's do some over the sweater stuff before I go home.
Nah, he was trying to get it, and she was like, no, we're here for Nancy, or whatever her name is, Tina. We're here for Tina because she's scarred.
Right.
And then it take two, her getting railed.
Right.
No longer scared.
Right. We learn then, Nancy goes home, and we learn that her dad's a cop. We've learned that Nancy knows how to caffeinate. She starts drinking coffee as soon as
she's
she
doing
gets home.
everything short of like just straight up IV drips.
Right. They think that Roddy's like,
the murderer.
The murderer. They do some kind of sting operation following Nancy around.
Which I don't like.
Which worked.
I mean, it did, but damn, like, how did we know that was? How do we know that was going to work? How did we know that was going to happen?
Right. I don't know. But then there's something going on in class where she's talking about Hamlet. I saw you taking some busy notes about that.
Oh, that was just when I realized that was the woman from The Conjuring.
Gotcha.
Because it was also, that's also when I realized about the tropes, because that's when she falls asleep and she walks out in the hallway,
right,
and she sees Tina.
Right.
Which also was like a little, I think that was something.
But Tina's in a body bag touring the school now.
Exactly. And like whispering her name. And I think that was something that happened in one of the Scream movies, in the third one. And I don't know if Wes Craven directed or wrote the third one as well as the first one. But I just feel like Scream has a lot of little shout outs to other horror movies that I didn't get a lot. Most of them being the fucking Nightmare on Elm Street, because Wes Craven did both.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And, like that scene where in the first one where the Fonz looks out in the hall and it's like, you little shits. And then there's the janitor cleaning up. And he's like, what'd you say to me?
Right.
And he's like, not you, Fred.
Right.
And he's dressed like Freddy. That is Wes Craven.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
Yes. That is the janitor.
That's great. Way to get in your own film, Wes.
Exactly.
You deserve it. Because these are great franchise movies. You know, they're good. He comes up with like a good monster or a good concept. He plugs in some backstory and some side story, and he doesn't have to tell all of it, but he tells just enough to keep you interested to see the next one.
Yeah.
It's really
that's
it's amazing
something that
storytelling.
I would really like to see, or like to know exactly how much of this was all planned out. Like, was it something like someone signed like literally like at least a 5-film deal about this? Because then that's great. You know, they actually like purposefully planned out the series and the story that is told throughout it, as opposed to some other franchises who think that this is going to be the first one, and then surprisingly it does really well. Saw, and then everybody, and then it's like, oh shit, now we got to come up with.
I think Saw was a surprise.
Oh yeah, because it was like super low budget.
Yeah,
it was done in like 10 days.
Just because of the pace at which they were making these things. I mean, I think the writer probably has it all mapped out. The producers may not have it all mapped out at first. It might be a little bit of a market response and see what else you've got.
Well, somebody's got it, because I mean, I don't know if at all, like, I don't see Wes Craven's name on any of them again until Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Okay.
But none of them share the same writers.
Okay.
There's like, yeah, they're all different. Like in the second one, they're, okay.
Is it
no,
like,
the third one, Wes Craven did write the screenplay, and he also came up with the story. And that's what I'm saying. Like that second one's like, it just goes completely off the rails and has no like real connection to the other ones besides Freddy, and that the main family is living in Nancy's old house.
Huh.
And the third one, I don't recall what happens, but I do know Nancy is in that third one.
Gotcha.
And that's the one where Wes Craven is again on the screenplay, but there are like 4 fucking people on the screenplay. So there's a lot of rewrites or something. And then the fourth one, there are 3 people that wrote the screenplay. And then, you know, there's no more. And then Wes Craven doesn't come back again until the New Nightmare.
Yeah, I think he does a good job, though, with the whole telling a story, like starting it somewhere in the middle of something's already gone down. Mm-hmm. You know, like with Scream, it's like her mom had already been murdered. Right. So there's already this one mystery kind of laying over the air. And with this one, it's like, who's this guy with the razor sharp needles? Who is he? We don't ever really get down to who he is. Like, we find out his name. Right. And that his name means something to the parents.
Yeah, and what their story of him is.
Right. Well, or just what her drunken mom's story is of him.
Right. And she kept the glove.
Yeah, this has been in the house the whole time you've been alive, by the way.
This is your fault. Like, literally. So many things. So you're keeping this totem.
Right.
Something
that connects the demon to your house.
Exactly.
I know. Have you watched no movies?
Exactly.
It's horrible. Well, maybe they didn't have a lot to go with back in the 80s. But that trademark kind of like the razor on the chalkboard.
Yeah, I think that's probably the worst thing that got you, because I know that's just like, that's automatically a thing that you hate.
Oh, yeah. And then they followed up with some like warm milk reference. And she's like, warm milk is gross. I'm like, truth. This because all movies have an inherent truth, and that is the inherent truth. Nightmare on Elm Street.
That warm milk is gross.
Warm milk is gross.
Never had warm milk. Has never appealed to me. But what was gross to me in that scene, I don't know, you know, and I think this is one of the more iconic scenes too. Like, she's in the tub, and then Freddy's claws come up between her legs.
So convenient.
Right. Twice this happens. But when she gets pulled down, and they've got this tub with like the glass shower door on the slide on the track.
Yeah.
As she's like clawing her way out, like trying to save her life. Like, all I'm thinking about is, oh my God, it's probably so gross in those tracks right there.
That is why we don't have a sliding shower.
Exactly.
Because of this movie.
There's probably all sorts of like mildew and just ew.
That's
that
funny.
is the feel, and the feeling you got when you hear the claws. Yeah. That's the feeling I got.
Yeah, they got us. They appealed to our basest fears. It's great. But so I don't know if there's anything else you want to say before we get to the point where she pulls the phone out of the wall and it still rings.
Nancy's hair turned white.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole situation
There was
where
some science. They
Right.
tried to show that science didn't have the answers.
Exactly. So her mom was like, you know what? I'm gonna go get her some help. So I'm gonna take her to a sleep clinic, which not a bad idea, whatevs. But then I also, super 80s. She's in there in this dream clinic smoking while the while the doctor's trying to do his doctor stuff or sciences stuff or whatever's going on in there. And then things like he's talking about what's normal rate and she's reaching REM now and this is normal is 5 and suddenly Nancy's numbers go off the charts. They're like at 15 and all that stuff and shit's going really far. And we do not see the dream that she's having at this point, but it is a pivotal moment. Whatever it was really fucking terrifying because when she wakes up, she's got a white streak in her hair and she has pulled Freddy's hat out of the dream.
Yes, into reality. That is amazing. I don't understand the white hair thing.
Well, there's a couple of movies that utilize that trick, and that's also kind of like an ancient what do you call it, like urban legend or something like that.
Myth or something.
Yeah, like a myth, like and whatever he saw turned his hair white.
Gotcha.
That kind of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, but she looked hot. I thought with it, my 12-year-old.
I don't remember what the X-Man is that has the white streak in her hair.
Yeah. It just worked.
That was
But
the
then
thing.
Freddy Krueger's all in the phone. He's like, "I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy." And I swear to God, it was the Saw voice. And then he starts tonguing her, licking her chin.
Through the phone. There are some things that I wasn't quite clear on. Nancy's pretty much onto the game almost immediately when she figures out what's happening. And so, she's like, I'm going to go into my dream and look for him. Glenn, I need you to stay awake. And if shit goes wrong, I need you to wake me up. Sure, no problem, Nance. And what I wasn't kind of clear on, so she falls asleep. And then in her dream, she's like looking back like, Glenn, are you there? And he pops out of the bushes and he's like, I'm here. Is he in her dream?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then at that point, she should have known that he was asleep
Right.
and woken up like you have fallen down on your duties.
Right. Exactly.
And so, something happens in the dream and, he does not wake her up because he's asleep and she gets up and cusses him out. Cusses him the hell out.
You bastard. Yeah, Nancy's got a mouth on her.
She does. I think she drops the only F-bomb in this movie when she's referencing Freddy, and she's like trying to get Glenn to, again, do another dream rescue mission, which
didn't work the first time. Second time, he ends up in a blender with the lid off. His bed eats him. That was also kind of funny. He has all this stuff on his bed. He's got a TV, a stereo, a record player, a unicorn,
he's got a hot plate. It's just a lot happening on his bed.
Right. And then his bed eats him and spits him out like a blender with the lid on.
I'm so messed up. As I was watching it last night, there was something in his room that looked like a laptop, and I just assumed it was a laptop. And then I started to think that, he's plugged into this bubble. The Kahmeela, it's 1984. There was not a laptop.
Right.
And it was, this is a full-on record player.
Right. So, it was pretty bizarre. And then again, another utilization of the upside-down room to get the 15 minutes of blood pouring out of the bed.
That was really jacked up.
How long?
How long?
Yeah.
How much blood?
Yeah.
His poor mother.
Yeah.
and it's seeping through the ceiling downstairs, like through the floor. And,
Right.
And even when the cops come, he's like, "Where's the coroner?" He's like, he's been puking in the bathroom. He's been in the bathroom puking since he got here.
Right. Exactly. And then, old girl gets her game face on. She's like, all right, Freddy, we're going to bring the turf to, the game to my turf now. And she's apparently has a 20-minute plan in which she can booby-trap the house using her how-to military information she got from the school library, fall asleep, catch the dream monster, and then get saved by her dad.
Thank you. So this is what that was the thing. I'm doing math last night about. That's probably why I was mostly awake because at like
You're drawing this out on the chalkboard. Impossible. What equals y then? This is impossible. This is
because Glenn's mother comes in at 11:45 and tells him to go to sleep.
Oh yeah, I started watching the clock in real time too, because even in the movie, this is not 20 minutes.
No.
This is an hour, 45 minutes or so. It's like
She's like, I need you to come to I'll meet you at midnight. 11:45. His mom wakes him up. He apparently falls back asleep at that point. And I'm assuming it's midnight when Nancy is looking outside. And then when she calls, because the parents are like, it's midnight. Why the fuck is she calling our house?
apparently when she was talking to her dad and laying this plan out, it was 12:10 because she said in 20 minutes it'll be exactly midnight.
Right. No, Nancy. No. So you mean to tell me, so between 11:45 and midnight, Glenn is asleep. And then between midnight and 12:10, Glenn is murdered and the police show up and there's a whole shit ton of police and coroners and
Yes.
people puking
Yes.
and reacting.
Yes.
All in this
The kind of services you get in the suburbs of this kind.
apparently.
Like instant.
And then it's like, and also at this point, she booby traps the entire house and her life and then falls asleep and finds him and everything. And yeah, it's just,
Right,
it's
right.
not, no.
Right. Yeah. And well, let's just say that this plan didn't go well. This
No.
was not an A-team kind of plan.
No, because she calls her dad and she's like, Dad, look, I need you to promise me that at this time you're going to come and bust down this door.
Right.
He's like, sure, yeah. But really, I've got other shit to do. I'm kind of dealing with a murder going on over here.
Right. You
So
know
I'm-
your boyfriend's been blended.
He's super dead.
She says, I know he's dead.
Yeah, just like, yeah, I know.
All right. It's still weird to me that he wouldn't just go over there because she's clearly upset.
Right. She's like really calmly, just like,
Right.
yeah,
This
I
is
know.
what happens when parents get too involved in their jobs.
Right. And so he tells his deputy or whatever, he's like,
Deputy dumbass, go out there. And like she breaks a window,
Two
screams
windows.
at him, and he's like, no, nothing. She breaks a second window, screams at him.
everything's okay.
He's like, just go back to sleep, right? She breaks another one. He's like, maybe I ought to go tell the lieutenant.
And what he had said was, if anything basically hokey or funny is going on, come get me. Well,
Right.
what do you mean by funny?
Right, breaking a window and screaming for help.
Yeah. Does that qualify?
What do they teach these police in movie police world?
I don't know.
Anyway, not much.
Police Academy.
Right, exactly. How to make sounds with her mouth. So, needless to say, Daddy's a no-show. She sets Freddy. The booby traps work.
Mm-hmm.
All right, it's very Goonies, kind of thrown into this John Hughes nightmare.
Goonies, Home Alone.
Right.
He gets like pummeled in the gut with
Right,
a
with the
sledgehammer.
sledgehammer, which ended up in Home Alone. Let's
Yes.
talk about how many things from this scene ended up in Home Alone.
Right.
Many things. But she does set him on fire, which cold, if you really knew. If he was innocent and set on fire
That's the
first time.
second time.
Right.
Also, though, Nancy, you're setting your whole entire house on fire.
Right.
You just set him on fire and lock him down in the basement.
Right. What could go wrong? That's where the gas connects. Everything's cool. So, nonetheless, Fire Freddy kills her mom with
That was a really...
a death scene descending into blue disco lights. Like, is that what happened?
Her mom has gone on to the eternal disco.
Right? She turns into a skeleton.
A burnt up
Yeah, like, okay, so they walk in. She sees a burnt up,
Wait.
on fire Freddy
Wait.
trying to stab her mom.
Wait. Let's talk about the flaming footsteps
Yeah.
up the stairs.
Flaming footsteps up the stairs too. Right, that's how they knew that it was a flaming Freddy on top of her mother.
And so he's murdering her.
Right.
And luckily, her dad is there to witness this.
Yes. And he immediately grabs a blanket and puts them both out.
And then he's just like, the fuck?
Where Freddy then disappears.
And the
mother
and the
is
corpse.
now just a skeleton. Which
Yeah,
makes no
yeah,
sense.
that's right. He disappears. She's just a burnt up skeleton.
Right.
And then the
bed opens up again. Like, again, meaning like beds have opened up at other
Right.
times in the movie.
Right.
This bed opens up and it blue disco lights or something like
Right.
and she sinks into it and then it closes back up as though nothing ever happened.
Everything is peachy.
But they're not dreaming. This is supposed to be reality.
right.
Or maybe it's a double inception dip maybe that's a
I was
double-
also Inception was also something that came to mind
Yeah,
as I was
right.
watching this.
Right, because it seems like she's always in the dream. Like maybe when she went to go sleep, when Glenn, like this is my in reality, right? When Glenn died, she went and then she died too in her dreams. But she was having this. Her dream was everything for us for the rest of the movie. Freddy coming back, of her dad, her
Seeing
mom
this.
dying, of her dad seeing this.
We're just gonna have to watch the third one now.
It takes you all the way out to. At first, you're like, "Oh, time travel." She's like, "I take back all the energy I gave you." Right, and then
because Glenn had told her about a tribe or something that was like they believed that in nightmares you turn your back on the monster, thus taking away your energy.
Their energy. Right? And so she utilizes her dead boyfriend's Aboriginal wisdom that he also learned at the library where she got her military counterattack info. And so that turns Freddy Krueger into more disco
Blue sparkles.
lights. Blue sparkles and pickles. And
Sparkles.
Pixels. Yeah, sparkles. We'll go with sparkles, Kahmeela.
Watch out, there's sparkle.
He did. He sparkled away. He sparkled out of existence.
Like a Casio. Somebody went mad on a Casio keyboard.
Right. She goes out the bedroom door and it's daytime. And it's like, is this a time travel ending? If this is a time travel ending, my wife's going to kill somebody.
There's fog
She's gonna
everywhere.
break something.
And her mom is behind her. It's like,
Right.
oh, it's going to be a beautiful day.
Right.
And
All her
then,
friends are alive again.
yay!
But nope. The final dreamscape is the final ending where they're in the Freddy mobile.
Exactly. They're in
Freddy is the car.
And I don't know if this happens in other ones, but yeah, like it's a red convertible and the top goes down. They're all like, "Ooh, who did that?" Like, "Oh,
Right.
it's so funny, haha!" But then it's Freddy's sweater.
Right. Right. And the stripes. Now, I just got to say something about the stripes. Again, another amazing thing about the Freddy Krueger trope. This is the hat, the claws, and the sweater. I think that they used Freddy Krueger-esque stripes in Beetlejuice a lot. Because there's a lot of stripes going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there are times where I'm like, is this a nod to Freddy Krueger? Because it seems like they really got that.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of then because I've seen that when I saw the sweater rag top, I immediately thought, I was like, oh, they must incorporate this in other movies because I know I've seen other things like that. But it was Beetlejuice that I'm thinking of. And yeah, Beetlejuice was 4 years later, so it's quite possible.
There you go. So that's why I say it's a classic and stand by that because.
Well, no, because I mean it is a classic, just for the simple fact that just saying Freddy.
Right.
Like,
people know.
That's what they
relax,
think of.
Don't do it. Oh, no, the other thing.
That's Frankie.
That's why I have no celebrity friends. I can't get anything. I know you have a name and it's important to you.
But speaking of, I also did have the pleasure of meeting Robert Englund.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, when I was in
man.
Florida and we were on had the same transport from the hotel to the convention center. And we talked. He and his wife, who's very lovely. They're both very lovely. We just chatted about some stuff, and he took a picture. And I'm assuming all of his pictures are him attacking whatever fan
Right.
taking, because the
That's how he
picture's
does
like
them.
me with like his hands around my neck. But
Interesting. I wonder, did you ask him, like, did you have any idea what this would be the rest of your life when you auditioned for?
no, I didn't ask that because I always kind of. I never know how actors are going to take it. Like when they're known for just that one role, no matter how well off they've been because of that one role. Like, are they the type of actors like, fuck yeah, I got paid all this, I got rich and famous off of just this one role and not really having to do that much? Or are they like this tortured, like real fucking actor?
Like Kevin from This Is Us.
Yes, exactly. And they're just like,
Or
I would like, I want to do more. Or did you see more of my smaller stuff? Did you see the other things?
You ever
like
see my
things?
theater in Nebraska?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I try to stay away from things like that.
Well, okay. I mean, fair enough. Fair enough. So when you say we were in Florida, you don't mean me and you. You mean
Correct, me and Nick.
You were there for a Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm. I was there when I was working for Nicholas Brendan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Who else from scary movies have you met at Comic-Cons? Movies, not TV shows.
I don't recall.
Well, we met the guy from Friday Fright Night. The
Oh, yeah,
original.
Chris Sarandon.
Yeah.
He was a delight.
He was a delight. So well mannered.
So well
And
mannered.
like, it's freaking Prince Humperdinck right here in the flesh, and he might be a vampire too. I don't know what to do. It was awesome.
Yes, he was really great.
That was a different Comic-Con. I was at that one.
Yeah, I can't think of any more right off.
You're looking around the room.
Yeah, like I don't know. I almost met Carrie Elwes, who was in, speaking of Princess Bride, as well as the original Saw movies, but I was too verklempt to go and make my way across the room and say anything.
Right. You're like, you spell my name Khmela. He's like, as you wish, and then you start crying.
And then that's it right there. It's done. It's over. I mean, I can't. There's nothing I can do after that.
Right. He was ordering lunch. He said deep dish. It was close enough. As you wish.
So anyway, out of 1 through 5, how would you rate this movie? Unless there's other points that you would like to make about.
I just want to talk about how much I also enjoy Carrie Elwes. Psych.
Yes, Carrie Elwes has made his way into many of our favorite things.
Yeah, he really has. I mean, anyway, speaking of, so I mean, I'd say I give it a 5 out of 5 Goldblums.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's a perfect little scary movie. It does exactly what it's supposed to do.
Wow.
I'm not grading this against, for Emmys, right?
Right.
I'm grading this for likability, popcorn factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Well, I'm going to give it a 4, just for the. I have to take one star away from like the 80s acting that happens in it.
Okay, well,
and I know
if we're gonna take stuff away, then I'll give it a 3.
Whoa.
For 2 things.
Why?
One, some pretty campy. Any use of Freddy's tongue, okay, you lose a point there.
I feel like it gets worse as the franchise goes
Right?
along.
Every use of Freddy's tongue was horrible. Even as a plastic, graphic effects, as he was doing his weird little tonguing thing. Yeah, sorry.
Why? Why, Fred? Why would you have to do that?
And then we're also going to have to take a point away for the coffee pot under the bed.
This shit would have set on fire a long time ago.
Just a whole,
I'm sorry.
why not more pills? Because that would have at least made it more realistic or something.
Right, or even there's like a couple of cold cups of coffee or
A
something.
thermos.
Yeah,
Motherfucker,
yes, exactly.
a thermos.
Exactly. The 80s were built on thermoses.
Right, exactly. You couldn't find yourself a lunchbox with a thermos with coffee in it in the 80s. You're not trying hard at all. You're just like, whatever.
I gotta say, yes, and everything that's in this movie, out of all the campiness that is in it, that is the biggest standout.
It sticks. It just ruins. It's just like, what?
Everything just falls apart at that point.
Too distracting.
And then the timetable of
Now the truth is,
her
it wasn't
setting the booby
necessarily
traps.
under the bed.
Wasn't
Right?
it?
They didn't show that, so I'm just, I can see the writers fighting back now and being like, it was on the stand it was under her stand, not under her bed, or it was just on the floor. I mean, either way, that's not better.
No.
So still,
Because it's carpet, for one, and
Right.
2, I'm pretty sure her blankets were hanging over it. So it's just.
right. No, so whatever. The thing is, though, is that the Freddy car was so great that was good enough to end it on. So, earlier when I was like, the ending wasn't that memorable, it's because it didn't really end. Not because the car wasn't great. I don't want to take anything away from the car.
Don't do that.
The car was great.
So, well, I guess we kind of answered the question of did there need to be more of them, because 1, it doesn't really end.
Right.
2, we don't really get Fred's full story.
Right.
So that's like, those are the 2 reasons why I say that it was completely acceptable for them to keep going.
Yes.
All right. So are you down to watch again?
Yeah, most likely. There's going to be a point in time where we have children, and I'm going to be like, you need to watch this movie because I need job security. You're getting old. You haven't had a nightmare in a long time. I need you to get scared and need your daddy. Because that's what this movie is about. Even though her daddy's a no-show.
Oh, he sucks.
Right? I mean, that is the other big trope here is that, one of the parents is missing, or she's obviously
They're both
suffering
basically missing.
neglect and abandonment.
Yeah,
right.
there's a lot of child neglect happening in this movie. And was that just the 80s where parents were just like, fuck these kids?
Yes.
Like,
yes,
you
very
know,
much so.
and, you know, Glenn's dad talking about how Nancy's a loon and he doesn't want his kid hanging out with her anymore. And he just basically lays down the law when she calls at midnight, which, you know, I mean, rightfully so.
You'll have to talk to him tomorrow, is all he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he hung up on her.
Yeah.
But it also made me, you know, kind of long for the times. Remember how simple it was? You just take one phone off the hook and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough call. You know, it's just, I'm asking myself now, like, yes, I will watch this again just because it probably will, although I haven't watched it in a long time and I haven't had any desire. But in the role I might play in showing people classic horror movies,
right?
You know, this would have to be on the list of a movie to show them in terms of these are the classic horror movies of my time.
Yeah, that is definitely after being fully you know, present and watching it now in my adulthood, I would have to go ahead and put it on my list because before it wasn't. It was just kind of like a non-factor for me. It was just like, Freddy, there's a million of them. Who cares? But you know, this was actually pretty good. This held up a lot better than I thought it was going to. I thought I was going to fall asleep much sooner than I did because, again, we started late. But there was something that had happened. Maybe it was in the second one where I was just like, like just jaw dropped. Or maybe that was when, you know, Tina got killed on the ceiling. But there were a couple moments where I was just like, oh, my God, that's fucking crazy.
Right.
So, yeah, it stands up. But for the Bechdel test, has to have at least 2 named women in it. Yes.
Yes.
They talk to each other. Yes. Yeah, Tina and Nancy.
Yeah.
And Nancy and her mom.
Yeah.
But about something besides a man.
No.
Nope.
No, because it's about Roddy and her dad.
About Roddy, her dad, or Freddy.
Yeah. Right.
Or even Glenn. So, yeah, nope. Unless you want to kind of squeak it in there about her mom being worried about her going to sleep. But I feel like even her telling her daughter that she needs to get some sleep, Nancy was always kind of coming back with, but Freddy.
Backing the, and or backing the patriarchal, because the doctors were male and her husband was male, being like, she needs some sleep.
I'm going to have to say hard no. That does not pass the Bechdel test.
Yeah. I mean, the other possible consideration is her telling her about how the neighbors got together and killed Freddy when she was showing her the...
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was about Freddy's death, but it's also more so about this is what we did.
Mommy killed him, honey.
Mommy killed him, honey. Like, if you're going to have a conversation with your kid that involves the sentence, Mommy murdered him, honey. A, do it in the daytime. B, don't do it by the furnace incinerator. Right. C, not with a glove made of razors in your lap.
No.
Not drunk.
No, definitely not. Not while your kid has been awake for 8 days.
In the presence of your lawyer.
Yeah.
I mean,
just some tips.
There are so many things wrong with that. But it was also perfect.
All right. So yeah, that was Nightmare on Elm Street. 1984. And so basically what we got from this is that we're probably going, at least I'm going to go and watch the third one now after I shut this off.
Did you finish the second one?
I did.
It sounds like a question, not a statement.
There was a good chunk of time I was asleep.
Well, let's boot up the second one and play it in the background while I work.
Okay. Hey guys, okay, so we're back. We I have since watched several more iterations of the Freddy movies and gotten a little more information that we wanted to add on and want to tack on to this episode. And
I am Dan.
First and foremost, I just want to point out that we had some spouting of false information.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Kids are calling it.
Yes,
these days.
we had some fake news
from moi.
Earlier in this episode.
Liberal fake news.
I know.
Right here about Freddy Krueger.
What Dan was trying to do, he was trying to be a Freddy sympathizer.
Well, I was trying to be a Freddy recaller. I guess I made his nightmare my own. I don't know.
He stated that in the movies it comes out that Freddy was
framed
innocent
and a tortured soul.
No. Nope.
Okay.
Nope. It even comes. I actually ended up watching 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, The Final Nightmare. Which they were
I
all
was wrong.
You were wrong up until that point, and they were really hardcore set on this being the final one. Like even the end credits, they're like doing a montage throughout all the other
Really?
all the other movies.
Like, we're done with it.
Right.
Gotcha.
And then like the last thing, Freddy's dead, is the last words uttered in this one. And then there was also 3D, which
interesting.
You know,
you hate 3D.
I do, and then I
It's
realized
so unusual for a movie buff.
Well, first of all, the glasses they make my eyes hurt or something. Like it's uncomfortable.
I hear you because it's two different stigmas. Yeah.
Right, and then it's also I wear actual glasses, so that's not comfortable or fun to try to put 3D glasses on top of your real glasses.
They got clips now.
Anyway, there's also what I realized while I was watching this is when you watch a 3D movie not in 3D, like it can only live in 3D for so long. Like nobody has 3D glasses. Most people do not have 3D glasses just hanging around their life. But so you're watching this movie that's supposed to be in 3D and it's not in 3D, and you just see all this stupid stuff like for no reason, like extra reaching out towards the screen.
Right,
and,
there are unnecessary shots.
Yeah.
Right,
so so
it's like we want to put the camera in jeopardy, but no, we want to put the audience in jeopardy. It's like, you know what? Putting the camera in jeopardy is all you really need to do. Show off.
Yeah.
Go with your fancy
Let's
money.
just calm down.
Yeah, I understand. Maybe you don't want to pay taxes. You want to spend it all on the movie. Whatever. But put in the music.
So also, I found out that it is not set in L.A. That first movie was filmed in L.A. most definitely, but to make matters worse,
I am wrong on a few things.
But no, I mean, it was a palm tree. You saw palm trees.
Yeah.
I saw palm trees.
Right.
People would think that's where the setting is supposed to be. Ohio. Ain't never been a palm tree in Ohio. That's where it's supposed to be set.
Right.
In Ohio.
Okay.
Springwood, Ohio is where this is happening.
What? Because they always talked about earthquakes in the first one.
Right.
So that puts you in California.
Right.
Are earthquakes in Ohio?
I had never experienced an earthquake in Ohio. I am from Ohio.
Casual conversation.
No,
at all. Right.
Exactly.
And nor would palm trees.
No, exactly. Yeah, if there were an earthquake that happened in Ohio, it's not like this earthquake. No, that's a big fucking deal. If that were to go down, it's just not. Yeah, so that was weird. And in this Final Nightmare one, number 6 in the Freddy franchise, we find out that he has a daughter.
Freddy has a daughter?
Yes, Freddy was married.
What?
And killed his wife. And, the daughter was taken away by the state, obviously.
Snap.
Yeah.
Okay, didn't know that. Ooh, wow, I really remembered this wrong.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's just, they try to give it a lot of they don't do enough with the backstory. There's just too much emphasis and attention focused on the nightmares and him torturing these kids. And I understand, it's Nightmare on Elm Street. That's the whole thing. He's the dream killer or whatever, dream master, whatever. But I feel like they could have been so much more interesting if we could have gotten a little bit more of his actual backstory.
My backstory was better.
It was.
It made you want to watch it.
Yeah. True story. Yeah, because and also
give me a call.
And also, I don't think what I was noticing, it was these kids' like the original kids' parents that did all this stuff that killed him. But we're really not seeing how they're affected by this, by losing their children.
Right?
Yeah,
they're just moving on with the golf club.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the same lieutenant police officer dad in all of them? Was there any
he comes
actors?
back in the third one, and so does Nancy.
Okay.
But he dies in the third one.
Okay.
And
how's Nancy looking in the third one?
Same, but her like, I don't know how long it's supposed to be between when we last saw her, but she looks like she's in her 30s. But I know that's not how long. Right. and her gray streak has switched to the other side of her head.
Gotcha. She looked like she was in her late 20s in the first one.
Yeah, she was a little. Yeah, so and she's like
she was supposed to be what?
She's 16, 17, I don't know, but she's like studying psychology. So the third one takes place in basically a psychiatric ward. Oh, and we also find out that Freddy came to be because I guess his mother was a nun who worked in a psychiatric ward and got accidentally locked into a room with hundreds
no.
of lunatics
Oh no.
over the holiday weekend.
That's
and
the
she
tortured
got
souls.
and she got raped by all of them. And
Damn.
yeah, and so they're saying that's where his, tortured soul was. But then we move fast forward, and then that's still at this point, yeah. So it's still at this point, we don't really know why though. Why for can Freddy still manipulate dreams? Why? Why does he live forever? Well, in the sixth one, we find out that, and it's just kind of offhandedly.
The sixth one?
The sixth one.
Which one's that called?
That's the final nightmare.
Gotcha.
Where they're trying to wrap everything up, tie it up real quick. And I also read that they were focused so much on the 3D that they didn't even really think about how they're going to kill Freddy. So any hoozles. So we move on to the sixth one, and it come to find out that there are dream demons or something, or spirits that roam the earth looking for that super evil
manifestation
spirit or what.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that is. And then they're just like,
they all attach to
hey, yeah, we've been looking for you. You want to live forever and fuck up people's dreams? Sure, let's do this.
And so they what's that called? This is not helpful at all.
So it's just the way Legion.
Yeah,
maybe. I forget what it was, but it's really offhanded the way they do it. First of all, there's like a psychiatrist who has this poster in his office. Someone asks him about it. He gives like a 60-second spiel on what it is. And then we fast forward like later on in the movie, and then we get to the point where Freddy, the real man, dies. And then these things come around him, also extra 3D, and they're like, "Hey, you want to live forever? What do you want?" He's like, "I want it all." And then that's it.
They're just flying around with standard canned devil offers.
Yeah, they've just been like, looking for him. He doesn't summon anything. He has no special like spiritual powers. He hasn't been.
They're like, "You've been lit on fire." Was that part still?
Yeah. True? Yeah, but it was just really done like haphazardly. And gotcha. I think he also, I fell asleep for a little bit in one of them, but I think they say that he killed his mother too.
Damn.
So I'm not sure, because his mother played a big part in the Dream Child one, where I can't even get into it. But
they tried it. They tried it.
They tried it. But what I do want to point out is, in these 6 Freddy movies that I have watched, it's always the woman that saves the day. It's always a woman that saves the day. So
right on. I
will give them that. That's about as much as I can give them.
Yeah, it's as much as Buffy passes the Bechdel test.
Right, exactly. And and in the third one, Nancy dies, but I told you that I have seen the 7th one, the new Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and she is in it. I swear she's in that movie. So now I have to go. We have to watch that tonight.
Okay.
Because I need to find out how. What did we do? Did we just throw out the whole timeline?
Honey, you're way too in this to turn back now.
I know, it's too far.
We've got to go.
It's too much.
I'll make or actually, there's a bag of popcorn. There's a bag. I'm sure there's a bag of popcorn somewhere in this house.
So, friends, basically, we tagged on this extra 15 minutes of the episode just to A, point out that Dan was wrong.
On several levels.
B,
correct the record.
To let you know that I have gone down this rabbit hole, and I wasn't willing to do it before, but Dan's pseudo
backstory
intrigued me.
Right.
And I wanted it, so maybe they would have been better off had it been like that.
In my defense, this was 20, 30 years ago.
No, that's understandable. It's fine. It's a lot. I barely recall what happened in 3, 4, and 5 right now. I watched them a couple hours ago.
This is my takeaway on the conversation thus far. Is that clearly there was a time period in movie making where they thought they would make it and everyone would just forget about it. That is your that is a tag, if you will, throughout this journey.
Yes, I'd like to know. I do wonder, do people when they were going into this franchise, where they're like, yeah, people are going to talk about this for years, or it's like, we'll throw this out and
People
whatever.
have almost forgotten about it. We need to remind them. Oh, okay. Right? It's like people almost stopped having nightmares, dude. We need to give him some more nightmares. How are you going to sleep tonight? Are you drinking chamomile? Is that what's going on? Like,
no, I'm fine. Like, honestly, like,
You're not
seriously.
scared at all?
No, it's... At this point, I'm like charged up and I'm annoyed by the timeline and the the subject matter, the lackluster storytelling that has happened.
Well, the whole reason I had to bring our dog Albert to bed with us is because I was scared. I needed extra protection. So 4 of us, I woke up and the 2 of them were snuggling with each other. It was adorable.
It was very cute. So, yeah. Oh God, I never thought in a million years that I would be, and I was in it too. Like, it was only one that I fell asleep during and didn't feel like I needed to rewind anything to.
Well, I might need some extra cuddling and hand holding.
Okay.
Are you up for it?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Those are the terms
of watching the next one.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, these movies. This is crazy. I want to know, I would like to hear from those of you out there who are true diehard like Freddy Krueger fans. Like, this is your jam. Like, I would like to hear the pros that you guys have for these movies out here. So get at us on Facebook at Down to Watch Podcast, or you can tweet at us at DTW Podcast, because I like some crappy movies myself. I am in the Saw franchise. I am down. If they make another one, I'm going to go see it. I know it's going to be trash, but I'm there for it. So, I mean, I understand. I get it. There is.
Let's say you're an aspiring writer, and you're like, you know what? Somebody needs to write a good franchise for another dream monster. Clearly, Freddy has demonstrated that Dream Monster is a thing that people will go to.
Right. Yeah, I think what I'm most, and I think it's just me, or there's this certain type of people that, and also the time, it was the 80s, early 90s, slasher horror, that was the thing. Girls' boobs and, teen sex, and they didn't really care too much about getting too deep about storytelling with a lot of these movies. I would be more interested in the psychological story behind it.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what I want to see. That's the Dream Master movie or whatever that I want to see is, like, explain to me how this happens, why it happens, how this person got this power, that kind of thing.
Right.
Like, they just spent way too much time on these kill and dream sequences, and it's like, we can do this stuff, and then I get it, we're all excited about CGI now, and because you can see it very clearly, like in 4 and 5, that's when it's like, oh snap, look what we can do, guys.
Right.
And then now in 6, it starts to become, there's a lot of like commercial catchphrases in it. So there's video games, and he starts talking about the Power Glove and things like that.
Well, I'm thinking of a good mythology for it already is, there's a way to loop in dreams and alternate universes or alternate yous. I don't know if you saw that Jet Li movie One.
Maybe.
I know I used to own it. I might still own it. But basically the premise, say there's 11 universes and there's 11 yous out there. So this guy figures out that if you go and you kill your other yous in the other universes, the remaining yous become stronger. Right, so this guy's mission is to just be the one version of himself in all the universes. Okay. So he has to be able to travel through the different universes, and they come up with some kind of scientific methodology to show. Sure. Could just as well, in like a Native American sort of tome, be that you walk this side of the water when you're awake, you walk the other side of the water when you're asleep. It's all reflections, and there's a way to do that, I think, tastefully. For somebody who's got the time and energy to write a good script.
And it may be out there. I just may not be aware of it. Also, if you guys know of something of that nature, let us know. Because, I don't know all of the movies.
I feel like we should consult Kay. He probably knows.
Probably. They touched on a lot of things that they could have dove a little deeper into, because there's one where they were actually in, most of the majority of it was in an insane asylum or whatever, a psychiatric ward while the kids were there. So we could have touched on it there. And we in the sixth one, we're also dealing with psychologists as well. And Freddy's daughter ends up being a psychologist. So I don't know. It was there. It was like right in their grasp, but they were really focused on that 3D. And
It's okay. Good for them.
I mean, fuck it. I mean, they've made all the money from it. I mean, honestly, this stuff kept going.
I'm not mad at it. I mean, do you think they thought about plot a lot with Mad Max?
The original ones or the
the original ones.
I don't know. I haven't seen
Fury on Fury Road. Well, Fury Road actually had a decent.
Yeah. Come on now.
Yeah, that was a good
Let's
plot.
just.
Anyway.
So yes. All right. So I am going to go on and finish this train ride. I don't know if I'm going to bother with Freddy versus Jason. That's a whole nother can of worms. I'm not ready for.
That might be a Halloween night activity while we're giving out candy.
Maybe. All right, friends. So we are signing off for reals this time. Thanks for tagging along on this journey.